welcome to episode 42 of Rigor Mortis Paranormal. Tonight we will be listening to stories we collected at the 2019 San Antonio Paranormal Fest. This is part 2. I am David. This is Robert, Jasmine, Kory, and Ian.
Hello,
Hey. Hello, everybody.
Part 2.
Fuck! I had to do the disclaimer.
There you go.
I was listening to Ian what we were talking about before.
The Kappa stuff?
They said they were going to be cursing to let them know, like, this is not a...
Motherfucking shit.
It's not a kid-friendly show, in other words.
Gotta say that right off the bat. Or else
we have kids in the background.
Question. Oh, fuck!
He will too.
No, but I mean, that doesn't really apply to us because we're not monetized on YouTube, but...
Yeah, so I guess we're good there. We do have the dog barking in the background.
Or coughing,
actually coughing.
Or sneezing.
He coughed in the last episode.
Snorting.
That was funny.
A few times since. While you were gone in the restroom again, Kory.
Yeah.
No, that was me. That's
Did you wash
actually...
your hands?
Fuck!
Thanks for that curse.
We definitely won't be hit by cops.
I washed my hands. I'm just kidding.
I was like, do you have to wash your hands when you're done taking a shit? Is it a law?
Who
What
does
if you're in
that?
your own house?
Okay, let me ask you a question. Yeah. Okay, if it's my restroom.
Is that why you got fired from your first restaurant gig?
Yeah, right.
Man, that was one disgusting place, and that you brought that up. I actually have a work story, but not today. That one is a doozy. It's a long one, and it's. Do you remember when we used to work over there? Like the manager that was there.
Yeah.
There was the assistant manager and the manager, and then the husband from the manager, and then the homeless guy that would take a shower in the back of the restroom. Stay tuned, folks. That's gonna be a
we'll put a
really
pin
good
in
thing. That guy, he took a full bath back there. He was the cleanest homeless guy. He still looked dirty. I don't know how he got that dirty. Like a real skinny, hairy, dirty guy. And he was tall. And like I walked in on several times, like where I had to knock, man, you know. But he was, I guess, trying to keep up with his hygiene. You know. So yeah, you know.
Try and keep the last few teeth he had. In there.
But yeah, I mean, but I will go into that story next time.
It was related to that, though. I remember my dad telling me about how... So wherever he worked at, they used to wash their
It's the same
stuff.
place that I was talking about. That.
Yeah.
We were just trying not to mention the place, but
That's why I said I caught that. Okay,
I'm just kidding.
wherever y'all used to work at, y'all used to use bleach to wash the produce,
Yeah.
the lettuce.
Yeah, remember that?
So
That's
Bleach?
fucking cancer.
yeah, that's
Yes, they did. I don't know if you ever remember that, Rob. In the big tub in the back of the sink, they had those real deep
I remember
sinks.
cutting it.
Yeah, you cut them, they'd open up the bleach bottle,
Oh, with
pour
like,
a cap full, and you just pour it in there.
With that tub full of water, that water was like over 5 gallons. So it was like a bleach.
It was one cap.
Well, the ratio was 1 cap full of bleach with over 5 gallons of
I mean,
water.
even with that,
Clean the dirty ass water.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I don't know why they would do it like that. I imagine, like, Ian is correct. You know, that's probably not the most sense. But then again, too, I mean, we had crickets flying in the fryer. So,
yeah.
you know, like, you'd have an extra leg, you know. Like,
Yeah. Oh, that was
when did
gross,
fryers
man.
get legs? You know, it's like, yeah.
no.
But it was awesome. I mean, that job was awesome. They were decent folks.
I always remember getting a raise and it was a nickel. I always remember that now. Like,
At least you got a raise.
And then Melissa, our sister, she got a raise. She was an assistant manager or something, or a shift leader or something. They gave her a fancy title, and she got her raise, and it was a dime. I'm like, dude, really?
Yeah,
I'm like, and that's what. Yeah, I guess we were making.
$3.35 minimum wage. You know, oh, that's a pretty big raise, guy. You know, you said, hey man, fuck you, man. The assistant managers and managers did make some pretty decent money, so you know. And then they're looking at us like, well, you know, you beaners should be lucky that you got a job.
Yeah, no. Should be lucky you're not working in a field right now. Be happy about
I
that.
did work in a field, assholes. This is my. This is.
This is supposed to be my good job.
Kory's all, I can't relate. I'm too white.
Oh no, but pick it. That's another beaner there too. You gotta smell his shits, man. Yeah, like.
He's an honorary Mexican.
He's worked at Sonic. That was pretty bad.
Shit, my first job was $5 an hour. $5.25.
$5.25.
That's
Was it
still-
Sonic?
That's still $2 more than us, Kory, man.
And then I went to CVS and I thought I was making big bucks. So I made $6 an hour.
Oh hell yeah! That's where you make the big bucks.
Breaking in the dough.
That's why I got with him.
He's gonna be.
You
rich.
worked with me at Sonic.
I know, but not at CBS.
That was a lot of money, man.
Yeah.
I mean, shit. We were getting $1 when we were kids, man.
Yeah, when we were working in the fields, man, we actually did. I remember they were like, well, you guys are underage, so we're going to give you $1.
We're like,
An
fuck
hour.
it.
We're like, okay.
For walking and chopping weeds?
Yeah, we're working 60 hours a week, so that's $60 for each one of us.
You should be like, well, I'm underage, so I'm gonna report you.
Yeah, exactly. We probably could have.
We didn't do it there. We did it when he was by his truck. Do you know anything of the child labor laws?
Yeah.
We should have in the 70s. I didn't have nothing like that back then.
They didn't care.
Hell no.
They did have that, but they just didn't care.
They didn't enforce it.
Yeah.
Like, well, I'm not the one that dressed these guys like, little old men. I mean, why do we have the long flannel shirts and big baggy trousers and like Oxford shoes? Like, we're out there in the field, like, damn.
And big hats too.
Yeah.
They also wear big hats.
Yeah. What's that thumbtack doing out there?
But yeah, they always did that. Yeah, see, wear big clothes, make you look older, and just make sure when the
We got our Social
immigration
Security
or
at
something-
what, man? 3 or 4? I mean, which is awesome because you should get it right away. But back then, like, they didn't get it till like when they got their driver's license, and that was like 18. But you actually got it when you worked, when you first started working, because
Really? That's when you got the Social Security.
well,
number?
yeah,
That's when
because
you
what they do, but they
I don't know.
didn't count ours. So I mean, because
Oh,
somebody
yeah.
would got in trouble,
Yeah.
man. Because it's like, what the fuck? This guy's 4 years old. He's got an 8-hour job. Like, so because that's when you start building
Yeah,
up your Social
right.
Security. So yeah, man. But can you imagine?
Yeah.
Fuck, if they did start doing it when we were 4 and 5,
man,
fuck,
yeah.
I'm retiring right now, man. She was like, okay, let's see, 4 cents off of the dollar. So, nah, bullshit, it's more than that. But
Yeah.
anyway, where we at, David?
Oh,
I'm
man,
sorry.
I don't know. Yeah, well, yeah.
Like I said last episode.
I just threw David under the bus like that. Where we at, David? And they're like, huh?
True craftsman at our craft.
That's the one good thing about this crew right here. It doesn't matter when I start this button, I press record, everybody's got something to say. And we
Yes.
feed off of each other, man. That's the thing. Jasmine's busy. What are you doing over there?
I'm making some Christmas sweaters.
Oh, something sweet, man.
She's getting us ready for Christmas.
Getting us ready
I'm working.
for December 6th at El Luchador, 7 p.m. at 623 Roosevelt Avenue, San Antonio, Texas, 78210.
And who we're gonna be with, Rob?
We're gonna be with William Poulin, the UFO historian here in San Antonio. Man, the guy's got a lot of awesome stuff. The stuff that we're gonna be bringing along also is our stories, so maybe a couple of pictures from our arsenal that we have of pictures. We do.
Yeah.
No, we just got some really good pictures.
Which I still haven't seen.
Man, they're awesome. I mean, you guys have been coming through. That's what we love about you fellas, man, is that you still keep us in mind. You still send us your stories, your pictures, and man, that's just totally awesome. You make us guys look awesome.
Your recipes.
You know what, though? I do need a recipe for a good injection for a turkey.
So you got one, send it.
No drug injection.
No, well, it depends.
We'll just send it anyways.
Yeah.
Just in case.
That's for the after party.
Oh, this turkey is special.
What do you say? Well, should we get into part 2?
I'm thinking we should. Let's do it.
Hi, this is Adrian again. I've got a couple more stories. One of them is Bigfoot related, and the other one is another crazy story that has been verified by several members of my family. So we'll start with the Bigfoot one. Around 1977, my uncle was about to get married. He ended up disappearing. Nobody knew where he went. They thought foul play was involved. My aunt-to-be at the time, her family hired a private investigator, and they tracked him down. He was in Las Vegas. So my grandparents, my aunt's parents got a hold of him. Ended up being he just got cold feet. Didn't know what to do, so he took off to Las Vegas, just kind of like a last hurrah for him. So what they decided to do, my grandparents, my father, and my aunt flew out to Las Vegas to go get my uncle, and they were going to drive back. They were going to rent a van. So they got to Vegas, picked him up, rented the van, and they're headed back to San Antonio with my uncle. I'm not exactly sure what part of the trip they were at or where it was that they were at exactly, but they hit real dense forest somewhere in that route that they decided to come by. So it was real late at night. My dad was driving. My uncle was a passenger. My grandparents were in the back part of it. Was a conversion van, so there was a bed that folded out. And my aunt was asleep on the floor. So my dad tells me that they're driving. It's a 2-lane road through the forest. And he's got his high beams on. No traffic anywhere, just them. It was about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Well, he says they're driving and coming up on the opposite side of the road. They see something huge, something big that, as far as they could tell, was not a bear, the way it was moving. So my dad said when they got close enough, they slowed down a little bit, and this thing, whatever it was taller than the roof of the van. It was walking upright. They said it was covered in hair, and it looked like it had a man's face. My dad slammed the brakes as soon as they saw what it was, so hard that my grandparents rolled off of the bed in the back of the van. You know, they woke up surprised, wondering what had happened, if they had hit somebody or something. And my dad and uncle told them, no, we just saw something. We want to turn around. Well, my grandmother started crying, said, no, go, get out of here. They wanted so bad to turn around and go look at this thing that they can only agree was Bigfoot to them, you know, from what they saw. They couldn't explain anything else matching that description of what this thing looked like. That's one story that my dad told me, and I think that one's pretty cool. Now, here's another one that I've got. This story, once again, happened on the south side of town, and the time frame that this happened in, just to give you a little idea, 35 had not been built yet on the south side of town. This cul-de-sac that they lived in was actually right in front of Burbank High School. It's not there anymore because it got dozed down for them to run 35 through there. Well, back in the day, this cul-de-sac was several homes, and the majority of them were family. They were cousins, aunts, uncles of my aunts and uncles, my mother, my grandparents. They were all relatives pretty much. Well, we had an uncle named Velo. Velo at the time was probably 10 or 11 years old. My grandparents, from what my mom tells me, always had a real hard time with him not wanting to come in at night. He wanted to stay outside playing and having fun. So they would tell him, you need to come in Spanish, porque te va a agarrar la cosa mala. If you don't know what that translates into, it means the bad thing is going to get you. You shouldn't be playing at night. Of course, didn't listen, always did what he did. My mother says that afternoon, that night, she remembers that they argued with him again and he ran off. And it was several other cousins and relatives that were playing hide and go seek. So what they would do is they would hide in that cul-de-sac behind people's houses, garages, and cars, and they would pick one person to be it. Well, from what my Uncle Velo told my aunts and uncles and my grandparents is that his cousin was counting, and they could hear him counting. And Velo was behind a house with another one of his smaller cousins that was about 6 or 7 years old. So they hear the other cousin counting, 10, 11, 12. My Uncle Velo says, you can't find me. I'm hiding. You'll never find where we're at. So the other cousin keeps on counting down. Once again, my uncle says, na, you can't find me. He feels a tapping on his shoulder. Now he's looking towards the kid that's counting, but he knows his little 6 or 7-year-old cousin is behind him. Well, he feels another tap on his shoulder, and he turns around, and what he says was a white lady dressed in white with blonde hair was looking at him. His little cousin was passed out behind him. I guess he must have seen her and gotten so scared that he passed out. The lady proceeds to tell my uncle, I found you. I know where you're at. I found you. He says he looked at her, looked at his cousin, and took off. Didn't even think twice about trying to get the cousin. He said he tried to pull him behind him, and that kid was passed out. He just left him there. Ran home. Now, the other part of the story is that my mother and my uncles and my aunts, once again, have all verified this story on that night. They were watching TV in the living room. They hear Bello run in, and he's freaking out, crying. He pulls my grandparents into the room. My mother says that they're freaking out, trying to figure out what's going on. She says a few minutes later, my grandfather walks out of the bedroom with a shotgun. And he tells the rest of the kids, turn off the TV, turn off the lights. Looks at my grandmother and says, hide him under the bed. So they did what they were told. My grandfather goes outside, sits on the front porch with the shotgun, and my mother, my aunts and uncles are peeking through the windows, seeing what's going on, hiding. Well, sure enough, my mother says it wasn't too long after that this lady in white walks up their driveway, starts talking to my grandfather and says, I'm here for Velo. He says, ain't nobody here by that name. And she goes, no, he's my friend, and I was told he lives here. Plus, I saw him run this way, so I'm looking for him. I know he's inside the house. My grandfather says, well, nobody here lives here by that name, but I don't know who you are or what you are, but you need to get out of here. You know? She says that the lady looked at him, turned around, and starts walking off, and she started cackling. She started laughing and walked down the driveway and disappeared. Nobody ever saw her again. The next day, like I said, everybody there in that cul-de-sac was pretty much related. After all the adults got together, they had come to find out that everybody who was playing hide and go seek that night, that lady paid a visit to their house, looking for them by name. Who she was, what she was, how she ended up there, nobody knows to this day. But like I said, it's a little crazy. We don't know, but that story has been passed down 2 generations now to us. And I've tried to catch my aunts and uncles, my mother. Maybe they didn't see what they thought they saw. On several separate occasions, being alone or together, they've all verified the same story every single time. So I kind of take that one to heart. I believe something did happen, but it's crazy, but it happened.
Hey guys, so my story happened when I want to say 12. This happened in West Texas, up near Lubbock. My uncle was a overnight security guard, so my aunt wanted to have a girl sleepover, so me and all of my girl cousins went over to my aunt's house and did the typical girl thing, you know, slumber party, pizza, talk about boys, dance, all that good stuff. So we go outside, talk to the neighbors, you know, have a good time, and my aunt's like, all right, y'all guys, it's 12 o'clock, we need to turn in, we got to go to church tomorrow, because they come, you know, from a really big Catholic family. So we get ready to go inside, and my aunt said her 2 daughters, my 2 cousins, were going to sleep with her, and me and 2 of my other cousins can take their bedroom. We said okay, and I've always been the bigger, heavier set one out of my cousins, so I slept on the top bunk by myself. My other 2 cousins, Emma and Xenia, slept on the bottom bunk, and we were all getting ready to go to bed. Probably around 2 o'clock in the morning, it gets icy cold, like cold, and I'm like, okay, maybe the AC's on. So I, you know, put my hand up to the vent, and the vent's off, but it is still freezing cold. So I turn over in the bed and I try to look outside the window, and as I'm turning to look, I see a full body apparition of a lady. I could see her shoulders, I could see her curly hair. She must have been either really, really tall or floating off the air. And I'm at this point trying to scream for somebody to come help me, someone to save me, and nothing's coming out. I'm just screaming my lungs out, no sound, no nothing. So I do what every good Catholic does, cover my head, pray, Our Father, Hail Mary, all that good stuff. I get done. As soon as I get done reciting Hail Mary, it gets hot, sweltering hot. Sweating, I uncover my head, look out to where I saw this shadow lady, and I could see the street. I could see the my aunt's car parked outside. I could see the street light. I could see, cars driving by. And so I'm like, okay, this is just too much. So I covered my head, went to sleep. So the next morning, I'm crying my eyes out at the kitchen table, trying to, get, just whatever I could out. And my aunt's like, what's going on? What's wrong with you? And I just trying to like tell her what happened. She's like, you need to calm down and tell me what happened. And so I start telling her everything that happened, and her 2 daughters walk in the room, and she's like, y'all get to go to the living room. This is too scary. Well, the youngest one chimes in, and she's like, if you're talking about the old lady in our room, we already know. And my aunt goes, what old lady? And the other one goes, yeah, Mom, the old lady in our room. And she's like, okay, y'all are scaring me. What's going on? She was like, yeah, the old lady either, sits on our bed and she'll watch us play, or she'll look outside the window. And my aunt's like, you're fucking insane. There's no old lady in your room. As soon as she says that, the bedroom door slams shut. We all look at each other and we book it. We're out of that house. So that night, my cousins were like, oh, let's go back again. She likes you. And I'm like, nope. I was so scared. My grandma had to use her curandera, bruja, witch powers to try to make me feel better. So and I still haven't gone back to that house. Till this day, I will not go back to that house. So that's my story.
My name is Eric, and I want to share my UFO story that I experienced. And it was the spring of 1994. I went outside to go smoke a cigarette, and as I lit up, I looked up in the sky, and I saw 3 very small opaque orbs in a triangle pattern. Now, I don't know if it was 3 separate ships, or UFOs rather, or one large UFO that with maybe, round opaque lights. But there were 3 individual opaque lights, like I said, and they were hovering in the sky for maybe 15, 20 minutes. And I decided at that point, I was like, well, this is very interesting. So I stared at the sky for about 2 minutes, and they seemed to move slightly, hovering in a very slow motion. And then all of a sudden they took off out of sight in a propulsion in a way that I've never seen anything else move like that. It couldn't have been in an airplane or anything like that. Now, whether it's military or something extraterrestrial, I can't speak on that. But I just thought it was interesting because it was the middle of the day. It was like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and when I saw this, and from what I understand about most UFO sightings, they occur at night. So I just thought it was very interesting, and that's my story for you guys, and I hope you like it.
Greetings, this is William Pullen, UFO historian and lecturer based in San Antonio, Texas. You can catch me live on my podcast entitled An Audio Commentary, which is available on the William Pullen UFO Historian Facebook page. Airtime is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. Central Time.
My name is Anna, and probably 3.5 to 4 years ago, I stayed at the Queen Mary, which is a haunted cruise ship off the coast of California. It's docked permanently. They don't go anywhere anymore. From what I know, there's been a lot of deaths in there. Most of them nobody's like that aggressive from what I've heard. Could be wrong. But we stayed in there for my cousin's wedding for 3 days. And the first 2 days, nothing happened. Everything was fine. We stayed in a relatively unhaunted place in the ship. But the last night we were there, we went on a tour of the entire ship. So we went into the places that our public is not allowed to go to unless it's on a tour. And that night, it was me and my little cousin, and we were sleeping in the living room. And since it's an old cruise ship, there's no lights on the ceiling. They're all fixtures on the side of the wall. Crucial bit of information. Anyways. So that night, everyone goes to sleep. It's fine. My mom's sleeping in the other room. And I wake up it was like around 3 a.m. And my face is kind of covered by the blanket, so I can't see much. I just see this green flickering light that's like from above me. It almost looks like a fluorescent light, but it's not a fluorescent light because there's no lights on the ceiling in this entire place. And then I kept getting these just insane chills. Like I was sitting there and like my body felt like icy. And my little cousin's sleeping next to me, and I was like petrified with fear, and I could not move. And I kept seeing like this green flickering light out of the corner of or out from underneath the blanket. And I finally work up the courage, and I poke my cousin to see if she's awake too. And she looks over at me, and she looks terrified, and she's like, what, like, she doesn't even know what's going on. She's like, do you see that? And I was like, yeah, but apparently she saw something different. She like woke up and it was dark. She didn't see a flickering light like I did, but she saw like a figure standing at the end of our bed for like a split second, not like moving or anything. But so we both had like, I guess that was, I don't know if something happened while we were getting the tour of the entire ship, but the next morning we kind of talked to everybody in the family, and everyone in the family after that tour had something like spooky happen to them that night. So that's my ghost story.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Watts, and my ghost story is actually something that had happened to me over at my best friend's house. He lives out in the hill country of Helotes, Texas, and his house is about like since the 1940s is when his house was built, or at least his family had lived out there and they built it, and he's the second or third generation. So whenever you go to his house, when you go up the stairs walking in, there's a whole open floor layout. So on the far left side you have the kitchen, in the middle is the dining room, on the right of it is the furnace and also the living room. So when you're in the dining room, like there's the living room is right behind you. So I was at the dining room table, and all of my friends were sitting down playing video games or whatever, and all of a sudden I feel somebody pull on my hair. I turn back around and there's literally nobody right behind me at all. Everything's wooded floors too, so you'd be able to hear somebody walk up behind you. Whenever I told my friend about this, he had actually told me about the lady who was murdered in that house before. So whenever you walk into the house, before you go up the stairs to go to that dining room, they painted over where all of her bloodstains were on both the walls and on the wooden steps. So he was telling me that it could have been that lady. And then whenever I told his father about that, he also told me that the lady, sometimes at night, whenever they have the furnace going, they'll see her face pop up in the windows of it, and she just like rambles her head around. And now I know that there's a random lady at my friend's house, and she likes to pull on women's hairs. And that's it.
My name is Chris, and the first paranormal experience that I remember, and the one that sticks out the most, it's obviously my first one, was probably about 5 years old or so. Living in the second house my parents had bought after my sister was born, and we were doing some painting in the house. So they had been painting my room that day and had moved me in to sleep in my sister's room for that evening. Well, we'd kept the door open. She was on the other side of what would be the back side of the house. My room was at what would be the front side of the house. And so something woke me up in the middle of the night and just kind of laid there staring in the darkness. And I don't know if it makes sense when I say all the little, you see kind of like fuzz sometimes in the dark when you're just staring in the darkness, and little, almost like when the TV channels aren't on. Well, that fuzz came into, and it formed a skull about a foot above my face and slowly moved closer. And as it got closer, naturally I got scared, and I turned my head with a clear view down the hallway as where I saw an apparition of a woman going down the hallway and turning into my bedroom where I would have been sleeping that evening had we not painted it. And I just, didn't do anything after that. I didn't go see what she was doing, or if she was in there, and I didn't see her come out. But everything was very clear as day, for lack of a better term. And that was my one major ghost paranormal story. I did have what would be considered a UFO sighting a few years back, maybe in 2014 or so. I was working at Limelight on St. Mary's Strip. It was pretty slow for us, so I was outside kind of gazing around, and I noticed some red dots in the sky in a straight, perfect line, evenly distributed across. And when they moved, they all moved in sync together. Passerbys, what's going on? They noticed them. They started filming them. I've got a crappy Android, so I can't even get a picture of the moon. So mine didn't work, but there was other people that saw it with me there. And of course, like most of the UFO stories, they were there, and then they were gone. They split. And about 2 minutes after that, there was 2 to 3 police copters patrolling the skies in that area above where I'd seen the lights, the orbs, whatever you would like to call them. And that would be my 2 major experiences on ghosts and UFOs that are the most vivid and stick out. I forgot recently, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I was living in a house. It's a 2-story house with some friends, and it was one of those neighborhood houses that in the downtown kind of bar area where a lot of my friends had previously lived in as well. And when they found out I lived there, they said, "Have you dealt with the ghost yet?" And I said, "No, I had." At that point in time, I just moved in. I said, "No, I hadn't." I asked my roommates about them because they lived downstairs and I was upstairs in the house. I said, "You guys hear any, somebody asked me about ghosts?" I said, "Oh yes, the house is haunted." They said, and I said, "Well, what have you guys had?" And they said, "Sometimes the kitchen window above the sink will be open by itself and unlocked. The little toys will be moved from one side to the other." I said, "Okay." And then, so I was upstairs, that's where my room was. And after that, things started kind of happen. I would wake up to my locked door being unlocked and open. But more importantly, and this happened a few times, I got woke up to being very forcefully poked and jabbed in the shoulder like they were trying to purposely wake me up. And that happened more than once, and I would have to tell, I would just kind of say, "Hey, I'm sleeping, leave me alone." And then I'd be able to sleep uninterrupted for the rest of the time. And that happened a few times, as well as the locked door being unlocked and opened. And it wasn't like there was a keyhole on the outside. It only locked and unlocked from the inside where I was at. So it wasn't somebody else that could have, done that. But and that was probably the most recent one.
I was with my brother, and I saw a shadow from the bathroom run across to my room and disappeared out of nowhere.
What color was the sign?
Nothing. It was just all black.
Oh, it's a shadow person.
Yeah.
Hi guys, my name is Michael Moreno. I'm from San Antonio, Texas, and this is my ghost story. So my story takes place on the USS Lexington in Corpus Christi. I believe the year was 2012. Me and my sister were basically visiting the ship with some family, and it was the first time we've ever been on the ship. So we never really seen anything like the actual cruiser itself. It was really amazing. So the story actually takes place first when we went below deck, and I believe it was in deck 2. Basically, we went under it's basically the part of the ship where all the crew go through. There's the cafeteria, the dentist area, the doctor's quarters. You basically get to see everyday life of the sailors. So there are 2 incidences in this story. The first incident is the dentist. And so walking through, we were basically going through the cafeteria and with the stuff. And we were just following a specific group because our family basically let us go. So as we were going through, we actually lost the group itself. The group went ahead of us because we were just watching. And we were just looking through everything on the galleys and things like that. We get to the medical area. And so we see every parts of the doctor's areas. And out of nowhere, we went to the dentist. And so while we were watching all these medical rooms, as we passed by one specific room, we see a man in full gauze, full medical outfit, basically like an old-fashioned dentist. And I thought, hey, this is a cool actor. I wonder if we get to actually ask him stuff. And so we go and turn the corner, and he's gone. Just gone. First instance, we see him moving around plain as day, moving an entire tray across the room. And when we turn the corner, the tray is moved, but there's no dentist. So I was like, oh, that's sad. We didn't get to ask him any questions. We didn't get to talk to him. And so basically we go and we continue the tour. We find one of the people who work for the Lexington and say, hey, is there a way we can talk to the dentist guide, see if we can get any information? And they're just looking at us puzzled, like, hey, did you see someone back there? Because there's no way to get back there. And if they're doing that, it's bad, it's illegal. I'm like, oh, do you want us to go check with you? He's like, yeah, sure. So we went back and we told him where we saw him. And as we kept looking, there's absolutely no way to actually get into the dentist's office or anywhere near the entire medical room. It's all locked up from behind. And so, that's just one of the first instances. The second instance is actually one of the stories they tell you on the Lexington. And basically, there's one of the shipmates who's telling his story about how he passed. And it was when, I believe, a torpedo had hit the Lexington, some story like that. Basically, there was some incident at the Lexington where it would cause the death of a lot of the crewmates. And so as we were telling the story, it shows like a little projection on the wall. And so when we're watching the projection, we're thinking, hey, this is a sad story and everything. There's also a little piece where we basically climb on and see the back, and you can see the back of the projection. And that's where I see a sailor just plain as day in the old time clothing. And I'm thinking, okay, these people are obviously messing with us. It has to be something there. And I tell my sister, hey, Jocelyn, look out, the sailor guy. Do you see him? Do you see him? And he turns and he looks at me. And as soon as I look to my sister, like, look, he's right there. He's right there. I turn back. He's just gone. And I'm just here freaking out. Like, there's no way he could have gotten back down there, because if you go anywhere back past that projection, it's just no floor whatsoever. The only floor we were standing on, it was those stairs and that stairwell alleyway. And so it was interesting to see that, because beforehand I'd never really seen ghosts other than on camera, on film, but actually seeing them in person is just phenomenal. Some people see some people see apparitions, some people see like mist. We saw just full-on people who thought, we thought they were people, but they were actually ghosts, and it was crazy, and ever since then I've always been a fan. And that's my story. So thanks for listening, guys.
My name is Kelly, and I'm a nurse at a hospital in Austin. And I used to work night shift, and I had just had a baby, and I was nursing, and we have a nursing room. And every time I go into that room at night to nurse, I would feel a little uncomfortable. There were times that I felt okay, but most of the time I did not feel like I was by myself when I physically am by myself. And so there was one night I went in there and I sat down and I started pumping, and it was probably around 2 a.m, and I started like getting chills. My hair started standing up. I started feeling like, specifically, like a lady was sitting there watching me. And I was scared so bad I had to get my stuff and like leave the room. I couldn't even sit in there, and it was like maybe in a matter of 5 minutes. And so ever since that particular area of the hospital, I still work in. So I had that experience, and then one time I was walking down the hall and I heard this lady crying, and again it was night shift, and I turn around and there's a lady, and she was like, I can't find my baby. And so I said, okay, what room are you in? And she told me what room, and I turned around to go look, and I went to go turn and ask her another question, and she's gone, and I can't find her anywhere in the hallway. And so I went and told the nursery, and they said, well, we don't have anybody in that room. There was no patient physically in that room, and I couldn't find her. That was probably the grooviest thing that has ever happened to me. And we still have like issues in that room. Call lights will go off when there's no call light in there. There's no patient. Things have moved. A lot of negative energy, a lot of negative things have happened in that specific room of the hospital. And then another time I can think of, a security officer came down and told us that he was up on the 6th floor when we were renovating, and for his rounds he has to walk around up there. And he walked up there, and he was doing his rounds, and there's nobody up there. They're renovating it. It's pretty much empty. It's just boxes and equipment. And he came down because he was shaking, because he went to do his rounds and a box like flew by him, and he just laughed. He said, I'm not doing rounds on that floor anymore. So I know hospitals it has like a lot of different energy around it. But yeah, I think the pumping that one night in that nursing room has always been the creepiest thing that has happened to me. That's it.
Hello, this is Robert Limon from Rigor Mortis Paranormal Podcast. Do you ever dream of being rich and famous?
How about being skinny?
Or beautiful?
Well, if you dream of these things, submit your story to rigormortisparanormal.com. We can get you there.
You'll have 8 whole listeners at least.
That number is 210-901-8666. And remember, folks, that's a 3-minute call. So if your call goes over 3 minutes, please call back and give us a second call to finish your story. We will edit that bad boy and make it sound like a famous person.
And if you sound like Screech and don't want to leave a call, you can always email us at rigormortisparanormal@gmail.com. Or you can visit our website online at www.rigormortisparanormal.com and click on the Submit a Story button.
Fame and fortune will be coming your way soon.
Cha-ching!
Rigor Mortis Paranormal is not responsible for your financial standings, bankruptcies, foreclosures, plummet in popularity, divorce, impotency, pregnancies, sudden rashes, and possible death. You are guaranteed to be heard by no more than 8 people.
Dude, that was awesome. Dude.
Man, I love these stories.
Oh, that was so much fun, man. Actually, I mean, that was, recording the stories and now listening to them again was pretty awesome, man. It's just
bringing back the memories from September.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm super jealous of y'all, because I didn't get to be there for the full day, partly because I didn't know if I was going to be able to go in.
Yeah. We should have just switched, because the second part of the day I don't remember anyway.
Yeah, so I showed up at the end, and by that point, y'all had pretty much recorded all the stories, and y'all had a groove, and I didn't want to mess with that, so I just walked around in my own thing and just chilled there on the side.
Oh, sorry for yourself.
No, I had fun.
But, it was nice though too. And then like towards the end of the day, like when when it was when it was dark actually. Things started winding down. It actually kind of got into like a little party atmosphere also. So
right?
It was really nice.
People walking around and hanging out. That's
just chilling.
That's what was
Fucking
fun.
thought you guys were gonna get either possessed or kidnapped.
Oh yeah.
Just come back here. This is where it was attaching to me.
That was trippy though, man. I was kind of worried about that little patch back there. I didn't know if something was gonna come up and grab my fat ankle.
Yeah. I didn't want to throw trash away no more. I was like,
that would have broke the ghost, the demon's hand. You clumsy ox! Like my hoof would have stepped on it. I got scared, man. They grabbed my hoof and clack, clack, clack. I went, The ghost stepping on the ghost back. You clumsy oaf!
Don't even bother haunting you because it's just that.
Went to the Texas Med Clinic, man.
The ghost,
what happened there, demon? I was like, this clumsy oaf. The demonic voice stepped on my hand there. But yeah, it was
fun, man, and I don't know how many people I heard saying that they felt something, some sort of presence. And there was like 9 different people that I was walking.
Was it really?
I feel a presence here. And like,
in that same area?
Yeah,
no, just
They kept saying that they were gonna go get cleansed. Everybody.
Oh yeah, that started creeping me out. I was like, why is everyone talking?
Well, I mean, because
can you order a cleanse? Or?
Right, yeah. Can you order a cleansing? Yeah, they had the cleansing there on the way out.
I gotta go on Craigslist.
I wonder if they did like a group.
A power washer with you, right? Spread them cheeks, sir. That's very possessed in there, man.
Power washer on the way out.
Like that. Like, come on, guy. You know that's full of shit. That's bullshit. Like,
we could have made a killing, man. We could have had a power washer.
With purified holy water there. Sure to cleanse you of all ghosts and impurities.
Just put it in the water, right? When they shower, we just pull the tug on the thing one time. Okay, you're good. But yeah,
no, it was fun though, man. It was but it was weird because like I was saying, there was a Black Swan Inn, so I mean we know everything's
Man, there's people that came from.
It is pretty crazy there.
From around the San Antonio, there was people that actually
different parts of Texas, man.
Yeah, that actually made it there, and that just gives you the level of how haunted that place is, and it really is. What I wasn't saying is the lady was so she's also like really cool, man. We go get Joanne Rivera, but
she was bartending.
Yeah, she was the bartender. On top of that, yeah. But they always give awesome events, man. I mean, no matter what they're doing, it's awesome. But
she's probably sick of us talking about her and talking to her by now. But you know what?
Guys would quit saying my name in that damn podcast.
I wish I never would have met them.
I don't know who invited them to the freaking Paranormal Fest.
I was hoping they would disappear eventually.
Yeah, especially when she saw that we were there near the beer.
Yeah. I figured if I charged more than 20, they wouldn't be able to show up.
We were like, hey, wait a minute, $50 a person, but free beer? It's like, oh, we're getting our money's worth. We're like, that's a steal.
Everybody was like, that's a lot of money. It's free beer. Oh, okay.
I was like,
Getting loans and shit.
They had to work a lot of overtime just to make that money, but it was worth it, man. Fuck it.
Yeah, they were like, oh my god. Like,
but they did make it, damn it.
It's gonna be a lost night, fellas.
They're hemorrhaging money.
Where's all the beer going?
That's a bottomless pit over there, man. We need a brewery to keep over these guys, man. They do actually.
We were coming back with like 5 cans each, me and Jeff.
That's crazy.
Yeah. We ends up not an ounce of shame, man. We come back big, happy smile. Fuck it, they said it's free. I tipped them.
I tipped them $1 for beer.
I thought you were gonna say $1.
Yeah, other people going for beer. Yo, I have any more Modelo's? No. I was like, what happened? Go talk to those people over there.
People thought we were the bar, right?
Talk to that R&P table over there. They thought we were the bar.
I did ask him too. I told him I asked them how much they had before I wiped them out. I wouldn't have changed anything. I would have still got them.
How many beers do you have left? Oh, about 48. I'll take them.
Can I get 47?
Is that all?
That's beer.
You see that fat guy? You think 48 is gonna cut it?
Even worse, the food trucks were like right behind us too.
Oh,
food trucks
man.
right behind us. Perfect spot.
What was the fella with the corns?
Yeah,
man.
Corns. He was back there too. I don't know. He was.
He told us a story, man. Yeah. I was just interested at first in one thing, that roasted corn, man. But he actually gave us an awesome story.
Yeah, that was on the first part 1. Yeah, he gave us the first story on that one.
Anyway.
Don't get cheap on me now.
No, but you know what? I mean, the guy had a great story.
Yeah.
Plus corn.
Plus corn.
Come on, guy.
Yeah.
He was the MVP, I tell you.
Man. That's one of my favorite things about going to events like that, and especially too when you have time to walk around. Oh well, roasted corn. Roasted corn. I mean, I won't say no to that.
Man, turkey leg, man.
The turkey legs too. Man. No, but talking to people and meeting people and like hearing their stories. Oh, I mean, I'm an introvert, but like I love being social. I just never have the energy for it. But I mean, it's great meeting people though. It's great meeting people and hearing their stories and like what they've been through and the stuff that they've heard.
And that they trust us with them is another thing.
Well, I mean, not even that though. Just like walking around at the event and like going to other people's booths and like saying what they have to say.
Yeah,
like
that's true. Yeah.
That was a really cool experience.
Well, that was cool too. Like you said, we had actual people that were coming from other booths and telling us their stories also, and that was a special feeling. I was like, man, that's pretty cool. Everybody there was really down to earth, and it was cool. And
we went to this one booth where they had haunted dolls there, and it's crazy. They had actually like a little 10 or 12-year-old little girl there, and she gave us the whole shtick, like telling us the whole story, and then like she was getting to the part where this kid committed suicide, and the mom's like, all right, it's my turn. She's like, she took over and like scooched her daughter to the back and was like, yeah, so like this guy killed himself and like he was like cutting himself and stuff like that. I'm like, whoa, that's a dark story. Yeah, and the daughter was all disappointed, like, man, I wanted to say that part.
Yeah, you're not telling it right. So about the blood squirting all over the place. And I'm like, yeah, let her tell it.
But that was a great like experience. And I wish I could have gotten her to go tell us that story because it was a really good story that they had about the doll. It's been so long now. I don't even remember it, but it was really cool though, like to talk to people like that and to hear.
It is because, like you said, because even like when we were reaching out for the Halloween fest, for the Halloween episode, we got to meet some folks, and they were only too willing to tell their stories. And then when they did tell them, they were awesome about it. So you're right. It's really cool. You make new friends, and it's awesome. We're hoping we start getting more folks call in their stories.
Yeah, you guys gotta share us with your buddies.
Oh yeah,
that's right. What's that number, Rob?
That number is 210-901-8666. And remember, folks, that is a 3-minute call. So if y'all go over on your story, please call back and let us know that it's part 1, 2, 3, 4, however many you have to put in of the story you were telling before. And trust us, we will edit that bad boy and make it sound like one. And if y'all want to write in and y'all are shy, what is that email address, baby?
Yeah, you can email us at rigormortisparanormal@gmail.com, or you can visit our website at www.rigormortisparanormal.com, and there is a section there that says submit a story. You can do it that way too if you're on our website. Hey, might as well do that. Whichever way you decide to do, we just love to hear from you guys. We really, really would love to have your story. We put just about every single story we get on our website and on our podcast, I should say. But again, please make sure you share us with all your friends and family, neighbors, and dogs and everything.
We may throw this out there. We're looking for some haunted Christmas stories. Hopefully we can maybe get that one. So if y'all have anything like that, please
Any
let us
winter
know.
holiday themed.
Yeah, anything. And even if it's New Year's, y'all saw a butt naked a baby a New Year's running through just wearing the sash.
Oh god.
Yeah.
Running through the snow.
We all know you did that before, Rob. Come on, you're not gonna be.
That ain't a baby. That's a big sash.
That's a sheet.
I had to take it off because it was itchy, like the red line. Anyway, but definitely would love to hear those or any of them, man. Y'all just we've been getting some awesome stories, and trust us, folks, we are gonna get them out. We just been kind of busy. Halloween for sure is what really kind of did us in. Just this month, we're trying to get everything squared back into the groove and stuff. So hopefully, we'll get that going.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. If you guys can, please send us your stories, man. That's all we need. Ain't that right, Jasmine and Kory?
Yep, that's all we need from
Right
you.
on.
Just stories.
Yeah, just kidding. But anyway, thank you guys for listening. We really appreciate it, and we hope to have something out for you guys in another couple of weeks. Y'all have a great night. Thank you much for listening.
Peace out.
Peace out.